cozy and let me ask you something strange before we begin. Do you think a plant could count? Not out loud, not with numbers, but quietly, year after year, keeping track of time passing, all on its own. I didn't believe it either, not until I heard this story. One winter, an old woman named Elspeth noticed something strange at the bottom of the biggest tree in that forest. A small, pale mushroom. Nothing special to look at. But Elspeth kept watching it, and what she saw made no sense at all. Every single winter, one new ring grew around the top of that mushroom. Just one. Every year, without fail. Elspeth counted them carefully. 11 rings. That meant the mushroom had been sitting there, quietly growing, for 11 whole winters. That alone was strange enough. A mushroom that grew a new ring every year, like a tiny slow clock. But the next spring, something happened that no one in the village could explain. A young boy named Peter got very sick, so sick that the whole village grew quiet with worry, waiting to hear if he would get better. His mother barely slept. One night, she remembered something her own grandmother used to say a long time ago. When you feel like all hope is gone, her grandmother had told her, go to the counting mushroom, kneel down and ask it gently how many winters are left. It sounded silly, but she was desperate enough to try anything. So she walked to the forest, alone, in the cold early morning. She knelt down beside that little mushroom, and she whispered her question into the quiet air. How many winters does my son have left? Then she waited. Nothing happened. Of course nothing happened, she told herself. It was just a mushroom. But just as she stood up to leave, she noticed something impossible. A brand new ring, right there, forming slowly around the mushroom's cap. That shouldn't have been possible. It was spring. This mushroom only grew new rings in the deep of winter, when the whole forest went quiet and still. She stared at it, confused, unable to explain what she was seeing. And 3 days later, everything changed. Peter's fever broke, just like that. He opened his eyes, smiled weakly, and asked for something to eat. The whole village breathed a sigh of relief. Now, my dear, here is something true, something a scientist friend once explained to me. It made this story even more amazing to me, not less. Underneath every forest floor, there's a hidden world most of us never think about. Beneath the ground, trees are thousands of thin threads, thinner than your hair. Scientists call this network mycelium. It stretches for miles under a single forest, quietly linking tree to tree, root to root. Through it, trees can share water, they can share warnings. Some scientists even think they share something like memory. And some of these underground networks have been alive for thousands of years, thousands. So maybe that mushroom wasn't doing anything magical at all. Maybe it was simply listening, the way the whole forest listens, quietly, to things the rest of us are too busy and too loud to notice. After Peter got better, other villagers started visiting that mushroom too. Quietly, only when something really mattered. A daughter leaving home, a harvest that looked thin and worrying, a grandfather growing weak. And every single time, something strange happened in the days that followed. A new ring would appear. Sometimes it meant good news was coming. Sometimes it gently prepared them for news that was harder to hear. Years passed. Elspeth grew old, and eventually she passed away. Peter grew up, became a father himself, and one night told his own children this very same story. And they say even now, if you count carefully, those rings tell you something more than just winters. They tell you how many times that little village needed quietly to be heard. I think, my dear, that we're not so different from that little mushroom. We collect our winters too, the hard ones and the soft ones, quietly, one at a time, whether anyone notices or not. And maybe when someone we love is struggling, all they really need is someone patient enough to kneel down beside them and simply listen. So, if you're carrying a worry tonight, my dear, imagine setting it down gently, like a small stone placed softly at the base of an old, quiet tree. You don't have to carry it alone tonight. Next time, I'll tell you about a weaver whose blankets could carry away bad dreams, but that's a story for another night. Sleep now. Grandma Rose will come back again. Sweet dreams, my dear.